Hey guys, today I want to show you how to make a bunch of different drum sounds with just the ES2 synth. If you look right here, you can see all these tracks are the ES2 synth. And they're all using different drum sounds. We have a kick, we have a snare, we have a reverse snare sound, we have a hi-hat, a ride, some toms, we have a crash, and together it makes this. And this is, again, this is all with the ES2 synth. The drum sounds are just using that synth, and this is what we have. So continue watching if you want to find out how I made this, and I'll guide you through it. So on a blank track, add the ES2. First thing I like to do is, if you don't have a preset that you've saved, is to go to Tutorial Settings, Analog Saw Init. Gives you a pretty basic sound there, but we can make it even more basic by taking away all these routing settings. Take away the analog. I like to just bring it back to 0. Make it mono, why not? Alright, so we have a pretty basic synth now. Oh, actually turn off vector mode too, I don't want to deal with that. There, okay. Now that you have that, let's copy this a bunch of times. So I'm going to call this our kick. This will be snare, hi-hat, ride. Let's just keep things simple. Do tom 1, tom 2. That's all we need for now. Okay. So I'm just going to go through and make a different drum sound on this synth for each one. And some of these could benefit from a lot of editing and EQ and stuff like that, but I'm just going to try to make the best drum sound I can from using just the basic, just the ES2 synth. So let's start with the kick. A lot of times people think kick is made up of lots of noise, but it's not. It's really primarily a note, and you'll see how. So get a sine wave, play a low note. I'm playing a low C. And actually, let's just record 4 quarter notes there, quantize it to quarter note. This way I don't have to keep playing it. So while it's playing, I can make some edits. The biggest thing I want to do is make the pitch go down quickly. And you'll hear it right now. Now it's sounding a lot better already, but the drum's not going to hold that tone. We want it to go away. Okay. Turn up the volume a little bit. So we already have a pretty basic kick drum now. Let's see what it sounds like lower. Let's just use the EQ just to see where it's coming. Yeah, pretty much in there. Now the only problem now is that it's a nice sound, but it doesn't have any high pitch, so it doesn't have that poppiness that sometimes is nice. Sometimes just lowering the attack gives you a nice little pop. Usually you don't want that, but in this case it's kind of nice. But we can also add a second thing here and using noise and just mix it so just a tiny bit of it. Just gives it some of that washiness, and then you can bring the cutoff down to lower the amount of that or something. Alright, so I add a little distortion, bring the volume down. can see it gets a little crazy. Depends on what kind of kick you want. I'm just going for a pretty plain one, so I'm going to lower the decay. And this, add a little more of the original sine level. That's pretty much all you have to do. Sometimes unison makes it sound a little richer. Let's see. Actually, I don't like that for the kick. I like it to be pure. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so there's our kick. So we can loop that. So let's make our snare now. I'm gonna just create a note on beats 2 and 4. Now we can start to build our snare. Turn this off so it's just noise. Now it depends on what kind of snare you're going for. But I mean, already we have a basic snare, it's just not very interesting. So let's add some distortion there. Sometimes adding some that's a little stupid. Not gonna have that on there. I like to add just a little bit, tiny bit of a pitch. Raise the pitch. So just so it sounds like there's actually a drum there, not just the splashiness. You don't want much. Let's see what unison sounds like in this. Let's see. Makes it a little bit more exciting. And if we raise the analog, analog makes it a little bit out of tune. These a little bit out of tune with each other, but actually, because this is noise, it's not going to really be out of tune. It's already out of tune. So, that's pretty cool. Let's see what else we can do. We could add a little frequency modulation. Gives it some distortion. We can add some drive. Shorten it again. Let's see what happens if we do a, actually I'm not sure if pitch affects sound, noise. That's not going to work. Let's do, let's see what happens if we do a cutoff affected by the envelope 2 here. If we bring this down, so you can see that would be kind of a different type of synth or of snare. I don't really like that as much though. So I'm just going to keep it pretty basic and raise this back up. I think that'll do. And again, using EQ and editing these sounds in other ways is nice, but I want to keep it just in the ES2. Okay, hi-hat, very easy. Just go to noise. Let's go here, and I'm gonna here's my little hi-hat pattern. Let's go to noise here. Just make the sustain 0. Oh yeah, well, I'll just turn it up here. Already sounds a lot like a hi-hat. Can add some distortion on there. Ooh, that's loud. In case you're confused, unison just basically normally there's, if you look at this, let's see here. When you're doing polyphony, you can have 6 voices at once, which means, let's say we have one of these on. You can hold 6 voices at once, and once it gets past 6, it'll run out and start getting rid of some. But if you turn on unison, it plays 2 voices at the same time. So you can actually only play 3 notes at once. But the thing is that if you increase the analog, the voices get slightly off tune with each other, or really off tune. It gives it kind of a richer sound. You know, but yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. So add a little bit of a effect on there. Give it some interest. Flanger. That's pretty much all we need on that. I like to put on a low pass or a high pass cutoff, so the low pitch doesn't. None of the low pitches stay in there. You can hear it. The flangers give it a little bit of a weird sound, but we can. It's a lot different than that. We don't want any of those really low sounds. It should be all pretty high. That's pretty good. Let's hear it so far. Yeah. I have one more idea. I'm going to do a reverse snare. And I copied the snare, so it's going to be similar to that, except I'm going to put it right here. But it's going to have a longer attack, so it's like a instead of a ch. What's going on? Okay, we gotta make this shorter. Alright, let's do this over. Let's make it even shorter. I kind of like that. So we have. Just turn that up a little bit now. And then copy this and change it the second time. So now we have a little bit of a variation. I still don't love this reverse snare. Let's See if we do a cutoff thing here. That's getting weird. Actually, that sounds pretty cool. I like that. Okay. Let's pan this a little bit left, pan the snare a little right. I don't know if that's the best way to pan it right now, but whatever. You don't want to pan really low things like the kick. Keep that in the middle. Okay, let's do the ride cymbal. The ride cymbal's a little tricky, and that's the one I've never really made one that sounds extremely realistic or anything, but it's kind of fun because you can sort of mess around with it and make some weird stuff. First of all, just think about how long a ride will last when you hit it. Ding, maybe a couple seconds. So you want it to, when you hold it, or when you just tap it and let go, it's the same. Well, I guess unless you did like a real ride cymbal, when you hold it, it actually would stop quickly, but we'll just make it go away quickly, or make it go away after a couple seconds. So maybe a little shorter than that. Okay, so for the basics now, now we need to basically make it sound metallic, and a lot of times frequency modulation does that. So we have frequency modulation here and here. And to use this frequency modulation, it's kind of weird, but this wave gets modulated by this second wave. So if we have it basic, like on the bottom there, it's just going to mix the two waves. But the more we add frequency modulation, this wave is going to modulate this wave in interesting ways. And you can see already it's sounding sort of metallic. So just play around with it until you can find interesting things. And then you can also raise the pitch of this. Because it's not a pitched instrument, it doesn't matter if the pitches are weird. Kind of cool. Let's add some noise now. Put a high pass filter on. We don't want that much noise though. Maybe some sort of chorus on here to give it that kind of wavy sound. Let's see what happens on unison. That's kind of cool. Too much noise though. Alright, right now it's just too intense, so let's lower the volume. Okay, right now it's still a little bit too pitchy. It's getting weird. Let's add some amplitude variation in here. So the amplitude, the loudness is getting affected by this LFO. This is the intensity of it. It's kind of cool. Let's see what happens if we do this. Okay, not the best, but it's getting there. We could also add a little, well, I said I would just do the ES2, so we'll just stay in the ES2. I think part of it is just this being constant. Let's take it every other beat. How about... There. I kind of like that. Okay, so let's make one more type of thing, the tom, and it'll be easy to, once we make one tom, it'll be easy to make the second. So toms are a little hard to make sound realistic. It ends up usually sounding, at least for me, usually sounding kind of very synthy and a little bit corny. So just, you know, it's up to you if you want to use this, but it's still kind of cool. I like to use a sine wave, and you got to set the pitch to go down. Now it's being affected by this. So it's starting already to have that synthy tom sound. That's really all you need for a basic tom, and you can add some other stuff. If you have the ring shifter on here, then you can change the pitch. Make some weird sounds. Gives a little bit more body. Maybe add a little noise. Not much though. Still want it to sound tom-like, not snare-like. The sine level adds more of the wave. That adds the sine wave at the pitch that this first one is at. So whatever this one. So like if this is here, that's going to add sine level on that amount or on that pitch. So if you just want to accentuate the main pitch, it's useful. So we can mess around with the amount of pitch bend here, or pitch bend. I think the more synthy, cheesy you want it to sound, the more pitch you should add. So very cheesy. So if it's more subtle, Let me see something here. I'm going to try something, make it a little bit more extreme. If we do another pitch bend, but just have it be really quick, it gives it that kind of kicky feel like we did with the kick. Gives it more of a punch. Alright, that's pretty good actually. And you know what, we don't need to do tom too. I didn't even think about it because I'll just do toms. Because you can play different notes. And I like to keep toms at least maybe fifths, fourths apart. If it's too close, it sounds too much like a real instrument rather than a drum. So, okay, we have our drums. So let's make a little song out of this and have it have the drums kind of start and build up and add in things. So let's start with the kick. No, let's start with the snare and the hi-hat. No, let's put the ride in there too. Yeah. So we'll do that. Let's do that twice, and then we bring in the kick. But to bring in the kick, we need there to be a fill. So let's do a tom fill. Remember, it doesn't really matter what notes the toms are. I just like to keep them pretty far apart. Now this is getting too low, so we need to not make them that far apart. So it's a pretty cool fill. Now this changes the grid line amount so that we can go into faster stuff. So let's hear this. Let's see what it sounds like if we do this. It's kind of cool. It's getting sort of synthy sounding, you know, less realistic, but not that this whole song sounded realistic at all in the first place, but you know what we're missing is a crash. So I need to make one more because we need some sort of crash when that comes in. So let's make one more synth. Remember, go to analog, saw, init, turn off these routers, and go to noise primarily. Oh, it was all the way on the first one. So we want this to be pretty high, pretty noisy. What you can do is if you go to the cutoff and have it affected by one of the waves and then increase the rate, you can do the random wave. Gives you a pretty weird sort of noisy sound. Let's do that again with the other wave. See what it sounds like if we do two. Might sound a little ridiculous, but Forgot to turn off the vector mode. Let's just see what this sounds like. It's a little weird, but let's see what it sounds like. Let's put this here. I think it'll work. I mean, it's not. It's kind of a weird crash and not very real, but it's sort of cool. Oops. Let's add another tom here. Whoa, excuse me. Ah, oops, holding the wrong button. All right, it's pretty good. So then once you get your drum beat set, then you can kind of merge it all together and loop it. So let's just make this loopable. If we let's cut all these to here. And we want to convert them to real copies. You can just Control L. Then we can merge them. Not sure if merge per track. Let me try that. Oh yeah, merge per track. That's a lot quicker. Okay, there. Now we have our beat. I think it sounds weird not having any toms. Then you can loop this and make a song out of it. And obviously there's many things you could do. You could, after you make all these sounds, what I actually would probably do is sample them, bounce them in place, and sample them, turn them into audio files. Well, first I'd probably put some EQ and make some changes on them in that way, but make them into audio files. Then you can put them in an ultra beat. You put each sample in an ultra beat. And then you can actually have a drum kit to play instead of having to make a new track for each part. But hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can make some pretty cool sounds with just that ES2 synth. It's a really powerful synth and tons of stuff you can do with it. And hopefully you liked it. So see you guys later. Thanks for watching.